Opposition Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Chief Minister. Chief Minister, earlier this year you said voluntary assisted dying legislation was not a priority for you and your government. You attempted delaying VAD laws with a round of expensive, unnecessary and duplicated consultation, despite already knowing a large majority of Territorians support the choice. You have now bowed to community pressure and agreed to start drafting legislation, but have given no date for introduction to the Northern Territory Parliament. Yesterday, Chief Minister, I provided yourself and the Attorney-General with a comprehensive, tailored draft VAD bill for the Northern Territory. Given most of the work has been done for you, subject to consultation with the community on the actual draft bill, will you now use this draft bill to progress VAD laws before the end of the year and finally give Territorians the same rights and choice as other Australians? Or, Chief Minister, do you intend to keep stalling on laws that so many Territorians desperately want to see passed for the Northern Territory?
Chief Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and a very interesting question indeed from the opposition leader, who believes that Territorians want a back of the beer coaster VAD bill, which I actually think is quite extraordinary given the gravity and sensitivity of what it is we are talking about. And let me just take the opposition leader down memory lane, Madam Speaker. She has been a Member of Parliament for 2 good terms now and a Minister for 3/4 of that. And in all of that time that Labor in government, they failed to get anywhere on VAD. Instead, they, right in the dying days of their desperate, dilapidated government, pulled a committee together to go and consult. Now, there are very good people on that committee, but they did not reach the width and breadth of the territory needed to prepare a proper report. And in fact, then Labor did nothing with it. They sat there, it was all too hard prior to the election, and did nothing. So, Madam Speaker, this is a person who for the better part of a decade could have implemented these laws if she really, really wanted to. What we have done as a government is come into government in August last year and say to Territorians we had 3 clear focuses. We were elected because people wanted us to reduce crime, rebuild the economy and restore our lifestyle. And we make no apologies for making sure that that is our priority, because it's why Territorians put us here. And VAD was never part of any election commitments or part of our plan. So I very clearly, transparently and openly said to Territorians, this is not a priority for us, because it wasn't. Over 1 year in now, we have passed unprecedented numbers of laws to empower our police and keep our communities safe, recreate a pathway for our economy through the Territory Coordinator, removal of third-party merits review, you name it, Madam Speaker. We have done a power of work. And so now we can do a proper process. It gives dignity to this debate because, and I'm very mindful in this chamber, Madam Speaker, there is representation from right across the territory of a diverse range of views. And this is a sensitive and important topic that should be dealt with respect and above politics. We had a bipartisan committee of the Parliament do extensive work with 86 recommendations, of which we're learning more about the rationale behind them today. We have a comprehensive plan. Drafting of the bill has already started based on those 86 recommendations. And instead, the opposition leader thinks it's a great political stunt for her to do a back of the beer coaster VAD bill, plop it out one day before Parliament, point at me and say, hey, why don't you use the one I've got? No, this is just ridiculous politicking at its worst, Madam Speaker. It's one of the worst displays of stunt I've ever seen. We won't be using your version, opposition leader. We will be following the proper process as we told Territorians we would.
Member for Goyder, what is your question?
Madam Speaker, my question is to the Chief Minister. Chief Minister, it was great to be with you in Alice Springs last week and to see the launch of the Joint Emergency Services Communication Centre, a key election commitment. With a 6-month trial now underway, can you update the House on how this centre will improve emergency response and enhance community safety, particularly as we head into the busy summer period? What broader measures are being put in place to ensure Alice Springs residents and visitors alike can enjoy a safer summer period as we continue to reduce the crime and antisocial behaviour that has previously plagued this town under Labor.
Chief Minister.
Thank you very much, Member for Goyder. And I know your community care deeply about law and order and about the work we've done, and you're an integral part of our team in delivering on our commitment to reduce crime. And unlike Labor, you know, Member for Goyder, that we want to reduce crime right across the territory. And people in Alice Springs deserve a voice. They deserve to be having their issues dealt with, and that's exactly what we've done, which is why we're delivering on our election commitments. As we are in the electorate of Goyder, we continue to roll them out right across the territory. And so to open the 000 Centre in Alice Springs, I had Minister Burgoyne with me. It was fantastic. You know, it is a great facility. We're going to do a comprehensive 6-month trial, really evaluate it and see how we can improve it, what next steps look like. But in the meantime, we have dedicated call takers in there with language speakers, and when I went and visited, we had one of our Aboriginal liaison officers, Loretta, who speaks 5 different Aboriginal languages. And so we have this incredible opportunity, and she was sitting there. There was an auxiliary call taker listening to a call, and Loretta was tapped into that call, able to hear the call, provide advice to the auxiliary, and provide that really important context. And when you have that translation in language, you don't want anything to get lost. And so her expertise, I watched it with my own eyes, is fundamentally delivering better outcomes for people in the region. We've also got all of the CCTV set up in there so that we can have people viewing that CCTV responding in real time in Alice Springs under that umbrella coordination here from Darwin. It's going to be fantastic. It also means we can have the duty superintendent positions down in Alice Springs because they've got the ability to control what's happening right across the territory when the need arises. And we even have the opportunity then, and I saw this with my own eyes on Saturday morning, is we had a lady in there, and this is outside of the trial hours, answering calls on behalf of Darwin because there was, someone might have called in sick. And so we now have Alice Springs Place jobs able to backfill Jesk instead of just calling on Darwin. So it's incredible capability. We are so proud to deliver this for people in Alice Springs, and I can't wait to see how it goes over the next 6 months. We've also got a really strong plan for those seasonal increases that usually come about during summer. We've built on Operation Ludlow 1, which was last year, to have Operation Ludlow 2, where we have this cross-agency concerted focus on that town. The preparedness is there, and we've also had great results with G4S going into the courts in Alice Springs, where under Labor, 7 to 11 police per shift were standing in the court in Alice Springs, babysitting prisoners. That is not where people in Alice Springs want their cops, Madam Speaker. They're now back out on the beat.
Minister. Leader of the Opposition, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is for the Chief Minister. Minister, the appointment of Commissioner Dole to NT Police Forward to lead, the Commissioner Dole to lead the NT Police Forward is very much welcome by Territory Labor opposition. However, concerns raised by the NT Police Association regarding Justice Blow's recent review found serious shortcomings in senior police recruitment, with officers raising concern about favouritism, bias and conflicts of interest in the process. Justice Blow himself confirmed he was given no powers to properly investigate these issues, and the NT Police Association has described the inquiry as, quote, largely ineffective and, quote, missed opportunity to restore confidence in the NT Police Force. Chief Minister, how can police members have faith in your government's commitment to reform when the CLP has designed a review that deliberately avoided transparency, accountability and real scrutiny?
Chief Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And we have seen the finalisation of the Blow inquiry, and it certainly went a lot longer than I anticipated, or anyone anticipated, I think. But what we have now is a line in the sand. We've got an inquiry done by an eminent judge, a former Supreme Court judge of Tasmania, someone qualified across these integrity issues, taking a look into it. Submissions were, of course, sought, and we responded to the NTPA's concerns by calling this inquiry in the first place, only for the NTPA not to participate in the inquiry. I'll leave others to fill in the gaps there, Madam Speaker. But at the end of the day, 6 recommendations, very important recommendations, came from this, and we have moved very, very quickly to implement them. I have asked Commissioner Dole to move swiftly. We'll have more to say about that this week and next week, because I want that drawn to a conclusion and put to bed. And it also presents an exciting opportunity, of course, in the appointment of Commissioner Martin Dole APM, the 15th Police Commissioner of the Northern Territory. And what the 7-month inquiry has done is given Commissioner Dole an opportunity to act in the role of Commissioner. And in just 7 months, he designed and delivered the OC spray rollout, which is going really well, Madam Speaker. He has also designed and is implementing the Police Public Safety Officer model, one of the most significant reforms to antisocial behaviour policing the Territory Police Force has seen in its over 150 years. We also have seen Commissioner Dole deliver the best paid deal for our police in 20 years, Madam Speaker. Now, that is someone who gets things done. That is someone who puts the best interests of our men and women in blue first, and he puts the safety of our community first. And do you know what else about Commissioner Dole, Madam Speaker? And I know you will appreciate this, is he will be the first Alice Springs-based police commissioner ever in the Northern Territory. And I am very, very proud of that, Madam Speaker, because that town
Take
deserves
your seat,
it.
please, Chief Minister. What's your point of order, Opposition Leader?
Standing Order 110. We, of course, welcome Commissioner Dole's appointment. The question to the Chief Minister was, Minister, how can police members have faith in your government's reform when the designed review was deliberately avoiding transparency, accountability and real scrutiny?
Chief Minister, you've got some time.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just don't accept what you're saying, Opposition Leader, and that's fine if you want to come in here and continue to try and talk down our police and create problems where there aren't. But that's just not a view that's shared. It's not the reality, and if you think a Supreme Court judge gets engaged in some sort of contrived inquiry, you are dreaming. It's just not how the world works. And so we have an eminently qualified person doing a really important job. The review has come up with 6 recommendations which we are swiftly implementing in full. And one of the best bits about it was that really important commentary in there about merit for the rank and the position. And I can tell you now, Commissioner Dole has got both in spades, Madam Speaker.
Member for Casuarina, what's your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Deputy Chief Minister and Minister for Corrections. Minister, the Northern Territory faces unique challenges in youth justice, particularly in ensuring that young people who came into contact with the system are given meaningful opportunities to change the direction. One initiative that's received strong community support is the Sentence to Skill program, which offers structured skill-building pathways for young offenders. Can you outline how this program is helping young people take responsibility for their actions, re-engage with education or employment, and contribute positively to their communities? And how does this initiative fit within the broader strategy to reduce youth offending, strengthen rehabilitation outcomes, and build safer communities across the Territory?
Deputy Chief Minister and Minister for Corrections.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for Casuarina for his question, because I know how interested he is in youth justice, in breaking the cycle of reoffending, Madam Speaker. We need to know that we've got a real strong program in place to break that cycle of offending, because unlike the others on the other side, Madam Speaker, who just had no plan, no idea, and that's where our crime rate went through the roof. That's why Territorians felt unsafe, and that's why people didn't come to the Territory, a place where I was born, a place I love. And that really cut me to the core, Madam Speaker. So that's why this government are out there doing what it takes to re-educate and give these young offenders an opportunity to make better decisions. And the Sentence to a Skill program is a vital part, Madam Speaker, of our rehabilitation program. Madam Speaker, this initiative provides young people aged between 10 and 17 who have been sentenced by the court to a structured, community-based pathway focused on skill development and their personal development, and of course personal growth, to make them better young offenders, so better young people. Madam Speaker, rather than placing our offenders in detention, our Sentence to a Skill program connects them with tailored support. And, Madam Speaker, let me just go down memory lane. The other side had a program called Back on Track, Madam Speaker, where 35 people finished. 35 people finished that program, Madam Speaker. And let me tell you how much that cost. $985,714.28 per person. Almost $1 million per person, Madam Speaker. If you tell me that's not a waste of money, I will sit down. Madam Speaker, in our program, the participants will be supervised by community justice and receive a plan aligned to their age and their needs. The younger participants will focus on re-engaging school, building life skills and strengthening family connections. Madam Speaker, we know some of the young offenders don't go to school. I know the Education Minister talks about it all the time. It is so important to get these young offenders to school. The older youth in our program will have vocational training. They'll have certificates and pathways into further employment, further education. You might receive a white card, Madam Speaker. You might receive a certificate in hospitality or food handling, or in a ranger program, Madam Speaker. These are the programs which are designed to break that cycle, to allow these young people to have a better life. They're real-world skills, skills that they can use, Madam Speaker, when they go back out in the community and go out to make better decisions for themselves. Build their confidence, Madam Speaker. We know some of the young people lack confidence. These skills will help them have those real-life experiences, build confidence, and have a sense of belonging, a real sense of purpose in the community, Madam Speaker. And I think that is one of these certain... And Sentence to Skill is not a soft option, Madam Speaker. This is about making sure that they're accountable and they actually involve themselves in programs to make the community a better place and to focus on their redevelopment.
Member for Daly, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Health. Minister, you were made aware in September 2024 that Healthscope would end private maternity services, yet you waited 8 months before writing to your federal counterparts seeking additional funding or support. On the 7th of October 2025, only a week ago, Territorians heard on ABC Radio Darwin that the federal government is still waiting for the fully costed plan your office promised. Territory families and healthcare workers have been working together and offering up their own solutions to this crisis, yet you are still sitting on your hands. Minister, why has your office failed to provide a detailed, fully costed plan to the federal government? When will you get around to providing that plan to the federal government? And can you tell Territorians what is taking you so long?
Minister for Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for Daly for this question. And I think it might have been last Parliament where I had to re-explain this to the member for Daly once again. But I don't think he likes the answers, Madam Speaker, because as we know right from the very outset, Healthscope's decision to close the Darwin Private Hospital was made late last year, and of course we know that maternity services ceased here in Darwin on the 6th of June this year. But leading into that time, the government has been involved in a number of measures to address the issue, to ensure that the level of private health service remains available here in Darwin, and as part of that we have been working at the operational level, been working extremely hard to ensure that the transition to Royal Darwin Hospital has been managed with the highest level of care. It's important to look at some of the statistics because roughly 8 years ago there was somewhere around 2,000 babies being born at the Darwin Private Hospital, and of course leading up to the closure by Healthscope, the number of births at the Royal Darwin was down to roughly about 250 births per year. But when it comes to writing to Minister Butler, what I will say is that the health officials have had many high-level discussions at the official level. I've not only spoken to Minister Butler, but have written to Minister Butler, to talk about these issues. But what we have seen is that the federal government certainly has a fully costed proposal, and those conversations with Minister Butler are ongoing. But what we haven't seen, Madam Speaker, is any support whatsoever from the member for Solomon, nor no support from the Labor opposition here in the chamber or outside of the chamber, not one bit of support has been offered by Labor to lobby the federal minister to access money to improve maternity services here in the Northern Territory. What we've heard is whinging, complaining, but not once have we heard Labor or the member for Solomon on the front foot lobbying the federal minister to get better access to maternity services here in the Northern Territory. What we've heard from the member for Solomon is he wants to bring Audi to the Northern Territory. Have you heard him talk about maternity services? No. Have you heard him talk about aged care? No. What I have heard from the member for Solomon is that he promised on the 11th of April this year to bring $60 million to build 120 aged care places here in the Northern Territory, but absolutely nothing from Labor.
Member for Drysdale, what is your question?
Madam Speaker, my question is to the Minister for Logistics and Infrastructure. Minister, Territorians are sadly all too familiar with the Labor legacy this government has inherited. Projects spiralling over budget, timelines blowing out, and a staggering $1.4 billion black hole in unfunded liabilities. It's a debt that's hard for everyday Territorians to even comprehend, but it's a debt felt in my electorate of Drysdale. The Alice Springs Atziaga project is just one example of this economic mismanagement, a mismanagement that affects every Territorian. Can you please update the House on the current status of this project?
Minister for Logistics and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for Drysdale for his question, because I know that the member for Drysdale understands how finances work, and he advocates all the time to make sure that the people in his electorate are getting what they should and getting what they deserve. But let's go back to Atziaga, and this project was promised by the Gunner government right back in the early days, and now we're more than 9 years on living the Atziaga saga. Now let's take a look at how we got here. Let's take a moment to consider this. Back in 2017, Labor signed a deal to deliver the Atziaga in Alice Springs. 2017, Madam Speaker. The federal government chipped in $80 million and the Territory committed to deliver what was supposed to be $149 million to this project, including $20 million for a cultural centre, which the Labor government rolled into the Atziaga. Now let's fast forward to when the CLP came into government, Madam Speaker, and it didn't take long for us to realise that this project was cooked. The design was a grand wish list and not an actual realistic plan. The price tag had blown out beyond $300 million, more than double what was allocated and promised to the project. And the Albanese Labor government made it very, very clear that there'd be no extra money from the Commonwealth for this project. That was all they were putting up. So where was the Territory supposed to find another $150 million, especially when Labor left us with that $1.4 billion black hole? Our budget can't stretch that far, Madam Speaker, and Territorians shouldn't be expected to foot the bill for Labor's mismanagement. We got to work immediately to find a responsible solution, a scaled and sensible design that would still deliver a meaningful project for the people of Alice Springs. We asked the Commonwealth to endorse that approach, but instead we had the member for Lingiari ambush the project at the last minute. And now, Madam Speaker, Alice Springs is left with nothing. We've had years of talk, millions wasted, and a Labor government ready to point fingers instead of taking responsibility. And in typical Labor fashion, Madam Speaker, they've kept changing the goalposts. That's why we've been waiting 9 years for this project, Madam Speaker. Territory Labor kept shifting the goalposts. They divided the community of Alice Springs. And now, since we've come into government and found the deficiencies in this project, we're now having federal Labor shift the goalpost. Go back and do some more consultation, change the location. We had a plan to deliver that project starting at the end of this year, but the rug has been pulled out from underneath us by federal Labor. They were not serious about delivering this project to the people of Alice Springs.
Member for Daly, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Health. Minister, for more than a year, you've failed expectant Territory mothers and their families, ignoring their pleas for safer, better maternity services across the Northern Territory. You've spoken out on radio, in the media and at community forums like Our Birth, Our Voice, yet you've done nothing and continue to blame everyone else for your failings. While your Chief Minister and Deputy Chief Minister tell Territorians to leave if they don't back the CLP and dismiss or criticise health professionals, you've stood by in silence. Territory families and healthcare workers have been very clear. A lack of continuity of care is putting babies and mothers' lives at risk. Minister, when will you stop defending failure, apologise to Territory families and finally take some action on the crisis in NT maternity care?
Minister for Health.
Oh, thank you, Madam Speaker, and I think the member for Daly didn't listen last time, so perhaps I'll repeat once more. And I do want to put on the record the work that is being done right across the Northern Territory, Madam Speaker, because I know that our maternity staff, our frontline workers, and getting out and visiting the Alice Springs Hospital on the weekend, Madam Speaker, we have our frontline workers are doing an absolutely incredible job when it comes to delivering babies here in the Northern Territory. Now, as I said before, it was Healthscope that shut down maternity services here in Darwin, and we stepped in to take over and provide a service that many mothers would have completely missed out on. So I've spoken many times before about the different packages that we introduced, and as of the 8th of October, Madam Speaker, 53 families have used the private maternity service packages, 21 families used the hotel retreat package, while 32 families have used the return home sooner package. But as of last week, all 61 of the privately insured mothers affected by Healthscope's decision to close maternity services have now given birth at the Royal Darwin Hospital. So it's reassuring and, but in the same way, disappointing to hear the member for Daly basically criticising our frontline staff for the work that they're doing to delivering birthing services here in the Northern Territory. But when it comes to delivering birthing services, what I will say is that we're getting on with the job. Our frontline staff are providing some incredible service at the Royal Darwin Hospital. But when it comes to money, Madam Speaker, and we just heard the member for Daly previously talk about approaching the federal government for $35 million to assist to upgrade the maternity suite, Madam Speaker. This isn't about capacity, this is about improving the layout of the maternity ward for mothers. But it's not just the 35, Madam Speaker. We've also been asking the federal government to assist with aged care services as well. On any given day, Madam Speaker, there's between 60 and 80 aged care patients in our hospitals right around the Northern Territory. And I ask the question, where is Labor? Where's Luke Gosling? Where's the member for Daly? Why aren't they out there advocating to improve aged care services here for families in the Northern Territory? But at the same time, it's costing us $40 million per year to deliver that service on behalf of the federal government. So how about getting out there and supporting us rather than carrying on?
Seat, Minister. Member for Karama, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Chief Minister. Chief Minister, we unashamedly promised Territorians, including the good people of Karama and Malak, we would maintain a clear focus on reducing crime, rebuilding the economy and restoring our unique lifestyle. And can I congratulate our police for their increased presence and 4-day proactive policing initiatives in Karama and Malak in recent months. And I understand there's another one scheduled for the end of this month, which will be highly welcomed. So, Chief Minister, in our year of action, certainty and security, what action have you taken to ensure our hard-working men and women of the NT Police Force have the certainty and security to do their jobs on our community's behalf?
Great question.
Chief Minister.
Thank you very much, Member for Karama, and I know just how well you work with the local police in your area to get better outcomes for your community. People in Karama and Malak are fed up of crime, Madam Speaker. They were fed up of being served cold Labor's excuses. Labor who had turned their back on your community, Member for Karama, for far too long, and Labor took them for granted, and you don't. You stand with your community, and I see that every time I'm out with you, whether it's at the shops or on the streets or in the parks, and I see the way people look at you and realise they have an ally, a fighter, and someone who is delivering for them. And so, Madam Speaker, we continue to make sure that community safety is our #1 priority, both for the people of Karama and Malak and for every Territorian, no matter where they live, Madam Speaker. And our police deserve to be supported, and they now are. And I spend a lot of time on the ground with our cops, making sure I'm listening to them, understanding what they need from us to be able to deliver a safer territory and better policing. And as a result of that change, Madam Speaker, that fundamental shift that our government has brought to the territory, we now have the lowest attrition rate we've seen in 5 years, which means less police are leaving the force, which means we have more police on the streets. And that's on top of the work we've done with recruitment, which has been huge, Madam Speaker, and is allowing us to do that proactive policing that's working really, really well in Karama and Malak, and those Coffee in the Cop events. I've been to many of them with you in your electorate. We are doing a lot of things to give that security and certainty, not just in the laws and the powers they need, but in the development of the police public safety officers, which is going to have a huge impact on antisocial behaviour and public-facing policing, the development and implementation of OC spray, of which I know people in your electorate are really, really pleased about. We've had big reductions in property crime right across the territory-wide for the 7 months starting January. House break-ins are down 25% territory-wide, and commercial break-ins are down 21% territory-wide. So plenty more work to do, and we aren't taking our foot off the pedal, Member for Karama, but the signs in 1 year are starting to be going in the right direction. When economy arrow is up and the crime arrow is down, we know we're doing our job, and it just encourages us to go even harder, Madam Speaker. So we've seen the best paid deal in 20 years delivered by our brand new Commissioner Dole, APM, and we've had a 4.7% reduction in victims of crime. And that helps our frontline. That's less victims they are having to deal with that awful, awful feeling of being broken into. So plenty more work to do, Member Karama. I want to thank you on behalf of all people of the Northern Territory for your tireless advocacy for the people of Karama and Malak.
Minister. Member for Arafura, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Health. The federal government boosted Territory hospital funding by 30% this year to cut waiting lists and reduce waiting times in emergency rooms. Minister, Territorians are still waiting for hours in emergency for treatment while you stay silent. Meanwhile, you've scrapped critical infrastructure upgrades in remote communities like Gunblanya, which puts continued pressure on our urban hospital systems. Once and for all, can you tell Territorians, both those needing care and those delivering care, if you have a plan in reducing wait times and for relieving the pressure in our hospitals?
Minister for Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for Arafura for his question, because when it comes to delivering health services in the Northern Territory, again, I want to commend our frontline staff. And visiting the Alice Springs Hospital, when I had the member for Karama and the member for Blaine with me on the weekend, just getting out there and talking to staff on the front line is clear to me that what the work that they do under significant pressure every day of the week is absolutely extraordinary. And that's what we're seeing from the front line right across the health service. And what I will say is that the member for Arafura touched on some of the remote services as well, and it's very important to recognise the remoteness of many of the health clinics here in the Northern Territory and the work that the staff are doing in those areas as well. But when it comes to wait times, when it comes to the pressure being experienced in EDs, not only in Darwin but also in Alice Springs, and we heard that from staff in Alice Springs, that they're under significant pressure as well, Madam Speaker, right across the Northern Territory. But the real question is, why are they under significant pressure right across the Northern Territory at the moment? And it's interesting to hear the member for Arafura talk about funding, because we've just received a hospital reform agreement offer that doesn't even get us to the national average, doesn't even get us to the national average in 5 years. In fact, the offer on the table at the moment, Madam Speaker, has us going backwards when it comes to federal funding to run the health service here in the Northern Territory. Now, I've already spoken about aged care. Madam Speaker, aged care, between 60 and 80 aged care patients in our hospitals across the Northern Territory every day of the week is costing us $40 million, and that's a federal responsibility. The hospital agreement on offer over 5 years is going to take us backwards. We're already the lowest funded right across Australia at the moment. So the real question is, Madam Speaker, what has Labor done for the last 8 years besides drag us into the position that we find ourselves in today, the lowest funding, no new aged care facilities, not one
Take
new...
your seat, please, Minister. Opposition Leader, what's your point of order?
Standing Order 110. The question was clearly around what's the CLP's plan to reduce those wait times and the pressures.
Okay, please continue.
Because you haven't
Health
said
I
anything.
think I'm addressing that, Madam Speaker. What we need is aged care facilities here in the Northern Territory. Federal Labor promised it back on the 11th of April this year, and they failed to deliver any aged care facilities. We've got 60 to 80 patients in our hospitals, and that will take some of the pressure off our frontline staff, because it's all about bed access. Aged care people should be in aged care facilities.
Your time has expired. Member for Blaine, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Corporate and Digital Development. Minister, small and medium businesses make up a majority of Territory-based companies, but they are the ones most affected when a cyber attack occurs. Our government should be supporting those businesses to be prepared for cyber attacks. This month, you announced the Cyber Invest Business Program to encourage Territory businesses to advance their cyber security. Minister, can you please explain to the House how the Cyber Invest Business Program will support businesses across the Territory and help protect and grow our economy?
Minister for Corporate and Digital Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for Blaine for the question. A bit of an ICT whiz himself, Madam Speaker, and someone that understands the importance of protecting our small businesses from their cyber threats. Madam Speaker, the Finocchiaro CLP government is committed to growing and protecting the Northern Territory's economy. We are a place of opportunity, and this government understands that for us to prosper, we need businesses to grow. Digital technology and connectivity are used by Territorians every day, and with that comes cyber risks. Reporting has shown that average costs for a small business affected by a cyber attack is $50,000, with 99% of locally owned companies being small and medium businesses here in the Territory. Cyber attacks can have a devastating impact on their businesses. And that is why this government, Madam Speaker, has committed to helping Territorians with small and medium businesses with the Cyber Invest Business Program, which opens on the 31st of this month, Madam Speaker. This $1 million program will help businesses to invest in cyber security protections. We are a government of action, Madam Speaker, and I'm proud to announce that we are matching dollar for dollar up to $10,000 so Territorians can better protect their businesses from a potential cyber attack. The grant can be used to strengthen cyber security controls, transition to a managed ICT service, or develop and test an incident response plan. Madam Speaker, this program doesn't just support those applying for the grants. The Cyber Invest Business Program requires locally based cyber security providers to apply to become an approved provider of the services that grant recipients are needing. No pink bats here, Madam Speaker. We're making sure the people delivering this program are fit for purpose. This incentive goes beyond preparing businesses to be cyber ready, Madam Speaker. The Cyber Invest Business Program will deliver more jobs in the ICT and cybersecurity industry as these services are made more accessible with the funding. Business owners can find out more about this extremely generous grant by visiting cyber.nt.gov.au. Now more than ever, businesses need to ensure they are cyber aware and can protect themselves to the best of their abilities. Madam Speaker, October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month and a timely reminder for all Territorians to keep themselves safe in the digital world. And now, with our government's Cyber Invest Business Program, we are providing the tools required to ensure just that. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Member for Nightcliff, what is your question?
Madam Speaker, my question is to the Attorney-General and Minister for Racing. Minister, a recent Four Corners investigation has exposed the Northern Territory Racing and Wagering Commission as a national embarrassment. The regulator overseeing Australia's $50 billion online gambling industry meets once a month, has no full-time staff, and hasn't published an annual report since 1993. This is a failure of both major parties, but you're in charge now. The chair of the NTRWC, Alistair Shields, admitted accepting hospitality from bookmakers he regulates and owns racehorses. 6 of the past 10 commissioners have owned racehorses while sitting on the commission. Earlier this year, your government voted down my motion to ban gifts from the gambling industry to politicians and statutory decision makers. Will you now admit that vote was wrong? Or does your government remain content being the lapdog of an industry causing immeasurable harm to Territorians? And further, will you replace the conflicted board members? And will you ensure the Commission releases its annual report this year as required by law under the Racing and Wagering Act?
Attorney-General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I'm telling you now, the Greens do not like gambling at all. The member for Nightcliff comes in here most sittings absolutely having a crack at Territorians for enjoying their gambling. Territorians deserve to have a hard week at work and then go down to the racetrack for a little bit or go down to the pub and bet on the TAB or whatever they like. Territorians like to do those kinds of activities. I know that you don't, but, Madam Speaker, we know the Greens don't mind in general, even though they're hypocrites, because even their donors in elections are actually gambling companies. It is an absolute disgrace. Like, what a hypocrite.
Take your seat, please, Attorney-General. What's your point of order, member for Nightcliff?
I just want to, the point of order 110 to correct the record that the Greens do not accept.
Okay,
that's incorrect
that's not
information.
a point of order. Please take your seat.
Well, she can go on with her misinformation.
Attorney-General, answer the question. Thank you. Stop your interjections. Member for Nightcliff, Attorney-General.
They just don't like the truth, Madam Speaker. The fact of the matter is that the Greens' biggest donor was a gambling company. So, absolute hypocrites. Now, Madam Speaker, I want to address the Racing Commission because I am quite frankly sick to death of the Greens coming into this parliament and demonising our public servants.
Please, Attorney-General, I'll give it to the member for Karama. What's your point of order?
Standing Order 31, the member for Nightcliff just used the phrase liar. I ask her to withdraw immediately.
Take your seat. Member for Nightcliff, please withdraw that comment. This is what I spoke about first thing this morning.
And it slipped out of my mouth because I couldn't believe the blatant misinformation.
Withdraw now or you can leave the
I will withdraw
chamber.
it, but may I ask for guidance on a standing order in terms of people putting out blatant misinformation?
No, if you don't withdraw unequivocally...
I just said I withdraw the liar statement,
Okay, sit down.
But it's not true. There's no gambling.
Sit down, please. Attorney-General, please continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I'd like to place on the record that it is an absolute mistruth that there hasn't been an annual statement since whatever year she pulled out of her you-know-what, because the Racing and Wagering Commission was only established last year, and it was established under Labor, and the CLP supported it. So, of course, there hasn't been an annual report. There's actually one being tabled in this sittings, which is their first annual report, Madam Speaker. If the Green member wanted to do her research and actually find out a bit more instead of just listening to Four Corners, which has never been a friend of the Territory, might I add, Madam Speaker. Every time Four Corners comes to the Territory, Territorians get absolutely... you know what? It's very unparliamentary for me to say what I really want to say, Madam Speaker, about Four Corners. and I will not apologise for that. And I will not apologise for our gambling industry, Madam Speaker. These are businesses that actually employ hundreds and hundreds of Territorians right across the Territory, even in Alice Springs, Madam Speaker. One of the businesses has actually expanded down there and they've got more people in their call centre.
Take your seat, please, Attorney General. What's your point of order, member for Nightcliff?
Thank you. It's 1:10. I don't want to hear how much the Attorney General wants to fall over herself to appease the gambling industry. But my questions were, will you replace the conflicted board members that have obvious conflicts of interest, and will you ensure, when will be the release of the annual report?
Attorney General, you haven't answered the question. You've got less than a minute.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding me for the member for Nightcliff, because you did interrupt him when I started answering about the public servants on the commission. And I am absolutely sick of people coming into the chamber from the other side demonising our public servants. That is absolutely disgraceful. If there is a complaint against anything, anyone, anybody, any politician, then use the correct channels to make that complaint. It's no point going to media and getting them to do an investigation. Go through the correct channels. If you've got something to say, member for Nightcliff, if you've got a complaint, use the channels. They're all there. It's available to you and to every Territorian. And I expect that if something is wrong in any of the bodies that come under my portfolio, then it is going to be investigated by that body that investigates, and it will be dealt with. So I'm not really sure why you want to continue to put down public servants who are just trying to do their job.
Attorney, did you... Supplementary question, member for Nightcliff.
There was recently, your department spoke about apparently a review into some of this conflict of interest but gave no details. Could you please provide us on the details of if there is a review into these conflicts of interest and when that will be available to the public?
Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I think you'll find that our government is transparent and open, and we are constantly looking for ways to improve processes within government. It's a very normal part of what we do in government. I know that the opposition, Labor, didn't believe in any of that. They certainly have proved to themselves time and time again, and Territorians actually lost that trust, which is one of the reasons why they are now in opposition. But if there's always things happening in government that reviews things, and that's fine. So I'm not really sure exactly what you want to hear from the government, but the Racing Commission is well within working with their act. They do a really important body of work. They are independent of government and they do that job really well. They support the industry.
Take your seat, Attorney General.
In terms
What's your
of
point of
regulations.
order, member for Nightcliff?
110 relevance. Is there a review and when will that information be public?
Attorney General.
Pretty simple.
I feel like I'm answering the question, but the member for Nightcliff is clearly not listening because, like I said, things in government, there's just business as usual that we look at things and we look under hoods and we say, oh, what happened last time? There's a problem to fix and we fix it. It's like anything that happens. So I think I've answered the question, Madam Speaker.
Your time has expired, Attorney General. Member for Fanny Bay, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Education and Training. Minister, for many years I worked directly on school attendance and engagement programs across the Northern Territory under the former Labor government's direction. Millions and millions were spent on these programs and all we saw was attendance levels decline under their weak strategy. I understand how critical school attendance is to student success. I also deeply understand the reasons for non-attendance and the complexities of the changing environment in relation to school attendance. In my electorate of Fanny Bay and across the Territory, schools continue to work hard to lift attendance and keep students engaged in learning. But we know there are families who refuse to engage and understand the importance of education and attending school every day. Minister, could you please update the House on what actions our government is taking to lift school attendance, support families and hold parents accountable for ensuring their kids go to school?
Minister for Education and Training.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the member for Fanny Bay for her question, and I do know that she, like myself, is very passionate about education. And we know that every child here in the Northern Territory deserves the right to a quality education, and every parent has a clear responsibility to ensure that their child attends school. And I don't think anyone in this chamber or probably across the Territory would dispute that we came into government saying we would boost literacy and numeracy, we would bring back school attendance officers, and we would make sure that we worked on attendance to get kids back to school. We know that under the previous Labor government there was a secret list that they had. We also know that there has been 328 of those children off the intensive support role, Madam Speaker, back into the classroom. And that is a direct result of the school attendance officers working right across the territory. And I've spoken many times in here about those attendance officers, the great work that they do. But just last week, under the previous government, we saw that the attendance rates plummeted. We saw that the literacy and numeracy had dropped. But what we know that regularly those children that miss school are far more likely to disengage, and they become involved in antisocial behaviour and potentially can end up in doing crime. So that's why we have taken strong measures to hold families accountable. And we have said that right from the very start, Madam Speaker. As I said, no one would be surprised at us holding parents to account. We said that in the election. Last week, I did an announcement of holding parents accountable that have children that are totally disengaged and chronically are missing school. So they will be referred to income management. And we know that those kids that are on that intensive support role are the ones that are most at risk. So the income, we've been working with the federal government to make sure that we have been able to put the steps in place to refer parents to the income management. As I said, it's something that we've been working on for a very long time, and that's just one of the suite of measures, Madam Speaker, that we have brought in over the last year, just over a year. As I said, it's just one of the measures to support the attendance officers. We have ALOs, we just announced that last week as well. We've got Aboriginal liaison officers working in schools. We've brought back school counsellors. So there is a lot of things that we as a government are doing to make sure that we are holding parents to account and that we are making sure that children are getting back into the classroom. If they do not get into the classroom and educated, they will not have a meaningful pathway to employment.
Member for Johnston, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my question is to the Minister for Heritage. And I was glad to just hear the Attorney-General say that the CLP government is committed to transparency. Minister, you've appointed Mr Mark Coffey as both Chair of the NT Planning Commission and to the Board of ARPA. Given that ARPA grants certificates to protect sacred sites while the Planning Commission advises on development projects, often for the same sites, and given that Mr Coffey runs 2 private consultancy firms that help clients navigate government and, in his words, overcome regulatory blockages, how will these obvious conflicts of interest be managed, and will Mr Coffey be required to cease his private consultancy work? Thank you.
Minister for Lands, Planning and Environment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for Johnston for the question. Mr Mark Coffey, PSM, was appointed to the Northern Territory Planning Commission, bringing with him extensive leadership experience and a strong understanding of how policy translates into tangible outcomes for Territorians, Madam Speaker. Mr Mark Coffey has worked as a Managing Director of a government consultancy firm. Madam Speaker, he was so well liked by the previous Labor government, he obviously did very well under them, and he has continued to work in that space. He has also held leadership roles with the NT Police Force, the Office of Northern Australia, and the Alice Springs Town Council. He is a well-respected person here in the Northern Territory. Mr Coffey possesses a deep knowledge of government operations and a clear insight into how policy decisions can be effectively implemented on the ground. Member for Johnston, in regards to the question that has been asked through you, Madam Speaker, Mr Mark Coffey, and I have full confidence in his leadership now at the Northern Territory Planning Commission. He will be able to carry out his roles. And I know, Madam Speaker, that if any conflict of issue arises, like anyone in any public role, they will excuse themselves from those actions. What has also been spoken about a lot, Madam Speaker, is the fact that Mr Mark Coffey, and he is an upstanding Territorian, has also been appointed to the ARPA Sacred Sites Board. Now, Madam Speaker, let's be really clear about this, because I've heard commentary from those opposite. Previously, one of the government-appointed members under Labor on the ARPA board was the CEO of a development corporation. If people want to come in or out in the public arena and preach hypocrisy, Madam Speaker, let's be really clear. In regards to any conflict of interest, whether it be in regards to the Planning Commission, whether you're sitting on the ARPA board. Any conflict of interest need to be obviously put forward, addressed and dealt with at the time. And we deal with this in our interactions on a daily basis, Madam Speaker. This government has full confidence in Mr Mark Coffey to carry out both those roles, and I look forward to working with him into the future. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
110 relevance.
I think you've missed your opportunity. He's finished his contribution.
I think I started before he sat down.
You're too late, Member for Johnston. Member for Fong Lim, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Children and Families. Minister, the Northern Territory's homelessness rate is sadly more than 12 times the national average, with many people living in overcrowded, unsafe and temporary housing. Domestic and family violence and alcohol and other drug abuse are key drivers for Territorians at risk of and or experiencing homelessness. Can you please update the House on the work being done to ensure that Territorians have better access to services focused on tackling the root causes and break the cycle of homelessness in the Northern Territory?
Good question.
Minister for Children and Families.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the member Fong Lim for the question. I know that you work incredibly hard in your electorate on this really important issue, and I've been very grateful to have you join me in visiting some of the communities where this is really challenging. So we've been at 1 Mile together. I know you're regularly helping out at Sunset Soup Kitchen. So thank you for the work that you do in this space, because it's that work, Madam Speaker, that drives the change that we need. And as the member for Fong Lim already noted, people find themselves homeless for so many different reasons. So it's really critical that this issue is tackled with compassion and a coordinated response that deals with the reasons behind homelessness. And to do this, interagency and cross-sectoral collaboration is absolutely needed, and that's why, Madam Speaker, we were very pleased in June of this year to launch our Homelessness Strategy 25-2030, which was developed with extensive consultation across non-government, government, interagency sectors, and most importantly by consulting people with lived experience of homelessness, so we could be really sure that we got it right, Madam Speaker, so we knew where the money should be spent. So after that consultation, we were able to look at the drivers of homelessness. We then utilised the information that we put into that strategy to determine how best to allocate funding within our government, most especially the funding that we received under a National Partnership Agreement from the federal government, $231 million over 5 years, Madam Speaker, 4 years, sorry. Really critical that we get that right. And this funding, I'm really pleased to say, is now supporting 20 organisations to deliver 75 programs, including crisis and transitional accommodation, tenancy support, day centres, outreach services, all of them designed to deal with people's issues, what has put them into the position they're in, how can we fix that, how can we work with them to make sure that they can get their lives back on track and find themselves in long-term secure accommodation. Each program, Madam Speaker, at its core has an understanding and the capacity to influence all of the factors that lead to homelessness. And for example, House 49, that many people will know about in the Darwin CBD, they deliver a range of programs that are incredible about helping the people who come to them for interim accommodation to find out why they find themselves in the positions they are and to help them reskill, to help them with literacy, to help them navigate what can be an incredibly challenging space. So, Madam Speaker, we will keep funding those programs. We will keep working with the homelessness sector to make sure we get it right and deliver the root causes that are leading to these people finding themselves in that situation.
Member for Daly, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Local Government, Housing and Community Development. Minister, the Wadair Pool is a vital community asset, supporting better health and wellbeing outcomes for residents. West Daly Regional Council has been working closely with the Wadair Local Authority to ensure the pool is well maintained and operational. The Wadair Local Authority is seeking to contribute to the running costs of the pool by nominating it as a local authority project. The Wadair Local Authority is incredibly proud to support the pool. However, your CLP government has told them they can't use these funds for this purpose. Minister, you talk about empowering local councils and authorities, so why is the Wadair Local Authority being blocked from deciding on or directing funding towards priority projects on behalf of its own community?
Minister for Housing, Local Government and Community Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for Daly for his question about the swimming pool. But what I do want to say is that, Madam Speaker, we do have quite a substantial number of local authorities right across the Northern Territory, and what we have is a group of people forming these local authorities that are committed to delivering local projects for their community. As the Minister for Local Government, our department does fund, firstly, councils to provide money to their local authorities as a project fund where local authorities do have the ability to make decisions. Sorry, I shouldn't say make decisions, but determine what their priorities are at the local. Can I?
CC interjections,
Can I answer
please.
the question? Each local authority, Madam Speaker, receives money from their council, which is provided from the Northern Territory Government, and each local authority has the ability to determine what the priorities are for their community. And when it comes to determining what those priorities are for their community, each local authority makes recommendations to their council on where that money should be spent. So when it comes to decision making around where local authority money should be spent, those recommendations are made to the council of the day, not to the Department of Local Government. The local authorities determine the priorities and make recommendations to their council on where that money should be spent. So what the member for Daly is saying is that there has been, or he's alleging, I should say, because there's been nothing presented to my office as the Minister suggesting that there is a problem. So if the member for Daly has a problem, what he should do is come to me as the Minister and talk about what the issues are, because coming into Parliament today, putting this on the table with no evidence to back it up other than a question to me,
Okay,
nothing has been presented to my office that I'm aware of, but I'd be happy to speak to the member for Daly further about this, because each local authority makes recommendations to their council about where that money should be spent. So if you have any further evidence to...
What's your point of order, member for Daly?
Question was, will you be supporting the local authority of Wadair to ensure that their funding can be spent on the Wadair swimming pool? Because they've come to me and said that they've been told by your government they can't.
Point, member for Daly. Minister, you've got the call. I think.
Thank you, member for Daly. I'll make this a little bit clearer because the member for Daly is struggling to understand what I'm telling him, and that's not unusual for the member for Daly because he doesn't seem to get the basics. Let me say this once more. Local authorities receive their funding from their council. They make recommendations to their council on what the priorities are and where that money should be spent. If the council has issues with those particular priorities, then they should tell the local authority. But if you have any further, come and see me about it, and I'm happy to talk to you.
Minister.
And thank you, Madam Speaker.
Leader of Government Business.
And I move that any further questions be placed on the written notice paper.